that we should do all that we can, be'emes, and not because of an instruction to bring Moshiach, because we want to have Moshiach. The question is, how do we avoid that itself from becoming another instruction that we follow? If the Rebbe wants to get us away from doing things mitzad hatzivui, isn't there a danger of this becoming another tzivui that we follow? So the truth is that what we need to make sure of is that we don't want Moshiach just because the Rebbe wants Moshiach. We don't do it just because we are following instruction, because we love the Rebbe, because we're Chassidim and we listen to the Rebbe. But we're asking for Moshiach because we want Moshiach. That's the truth. That itself, that we're asking for Moshiach because we want Moshiach, may very well be as the result of the Rebbe's instruction. But as we see in the Tanya, the Shia Tanya for these days, we don't have to worry over much as to whether in fact we really, really mean that which we're asking for, because deep down we takkeh mean. It's emes lamitoi, on account of the Neshama's desire that the Aibeshter should be in his gala in the world. That we're all called Bosor Kipi Yastom Kipi Hashem Dibe. Everybody wants that. Elamai, there are obstructions. There are layers in which we're not interested in that. When we arouse our inner desire for Moshiach, which is true on account of our Neshama, then that is the truth of what we want. Although it might strike us as a koyach demyoini, something which it's imaginary, we're imagining that we want, but in reality, we're following because we are Chassidim, but lo yochosh, says the Alter Rebbe. Let that not get in the way. It should not affect us in our practical desire and demand and wish that we express for Moshiach, takkeh because we want it. What is the way that we're able to tell someone that this request or demand from Moshiach is takkeh emetik? Roya ani et pnei avichem. I see, said Yaakov to Rochlei, I see your father Laban's face. V'hinei einenu elai kitmoel shilshon, and it doesn't look to me like he did yesterday and before yesterday. Simple pshat is that Laban had become envious of Yaakov Avinu's success. So now he's looking at Yaakov with a jealous eye. And that's what Yaakov Avinu is saying. When your father looks at me, he's not looking with the same face that he looked at me with yesterday, before yesterday, years back. No more. That's the simple pshat. The Hasidische Taich is that Roya ani es pnei avichem. When I look at your father, Laban, enenu elai, he doesn't appear to me, kitmoel shilshon. I don't get the same feeling about him that I used to get in the past. When I came here, says Yaakov, from the yeshiva of Shem Ba'ever, when I looked at a Laban, I saw a scoundrel, a noichel, a novel, a shakri, a swindler, a liar. That's the way I looked at him. Nowadays, I don't look at him that way. He's a cheater, he's a swindler in business. No, business requires that sometimes you make a couple of sharp moves, not so completely above board. He's a liar. No, he's economical with the truth. So I don't look at him the way I used to look at him. Now that's a problem. Because Lavan hasn't changed. So who must have changed? Says Yaakov, I must have changed. As long as I was able to be here in Aram Naharayim with Lavan and look at him like a swindler, like a cheat, then it was safe for me to continue to be here. But if I start looking at Lavan and finding excuses for him and looking at his behavior as not so bad, then I've changed and I have to get out of here. That's why I want to, says Yaakov, I want to go back to Eretz Yisrael. I cannot stay here. The way to tell whether we truly want something is by knowing how we despise its opposite. As long as we're able to talk about Golus and say that it's gefährlich, it's unbearable, it's a ridiculous state of being, and we don't want to handle it anymore. As long as we're able to look at Golus that way, then we know that our sights are normal, our viewpoint, our hashkafa is normal. We want to live in a Moshiach life, and therefore anything that's not that way doesn't matter how the chitzoni is good, and it could be a malchus shel chesed, etc. Doesn't matter. The very fact that we're in a state of Golus causes us to be completely zutrestelt, in the Rebbe's words, in the Maimer Biato Tzitave, completely shaken up, rattled, so that we can't stand the idea of being for another period of time in Golus. Once we accept that it's not bad, takkeh, we need Moshiach, and this is not the way things should be, but comparatively, it's okay. The chesed, then we know that we've accepted the idea of Golus, and we're not truly looking for Geula because we want Geula. So we just finished the Sira of Gevurah. We're starting with Tiferes. And of course, we live each week of Sefirah as part of the experience that gets us from Yetzias Mitzrayim with its Katnus Hamoichin to Shavuos, which is the Gadlus Hamoichin, the full ability to apprehend the Eretz Toivo Rechova in a person's mind, to apprehend the Likus fully and maturely. So each week is a step in that process, which is why the Rebbe says that Achron Shal Pesach, which is the end of a week of Sfirah, we're already on a higher level than we were at Pesach, which is why, says the Rebbe, we're not as worried about a chash of chometz like Gibrot. We're not as worried about it as we are all Pesach. All Pesach, we keep away from every chash of a mashu of chometz because it's a threat. Once we are through a week of Sfiras Oimer, we've completed an entire midah. We're that much closer to Shavuos when chometz is a mitzvah. So, of course, we're not eating chometz, but the concern about the chash of mashu chometz, that concern is gone al derech like lohispik b'tekeh shel avisteinu lahachmid. The dough of our forefathers in Mitzrayim didn't even manage to become chometz because nigla aleim melech malachei amlochim hakodesh baruch hu olam, the Aibeshter revealed himself to them, and as a result of that revelation, chometz is out of the question. When we finish 2 weeks of Sfirah, Chesed and Gevurah, now we have the both aspects as far as the desire for Moshiach goes, both the Chesed aspect and the Gevurah aspect. In what way? It says in Sforim that all of Sfira Sa'omer is like a Chol HaMoyed of Pesach. Between Pesach and Shavuos, and in the middle is Chol HaMoyed. So we understand that the first week is a Chol HaMoyed following the first days of Pesach. But the other weeks of Sfira are now a Chol HaMoyed following the last days of Pesach, and since the last days of Pesach are focused on Moshiach, the famous story with the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash's daughter, the Rebbe Leah, that the last days of Pesach are focused on the Geula Ho'astido. So now the Chol HaMoyed of that Yom Tov Achri Shel Pesach, focused on Geula Ho'astido, each week is another aspect of coming closer to Geula Ho'astido. So the week of Chesed is Emunah. Avraham Avinu, Midas Ha'ava, Chesed is Roish L'Ma'amini. As Chazal interprets the postuk in Shir Hashirim, Toshuri Meroish Amono, look down from the top of Mount Amono. Chazal Darsh Medrash, Roish Amono is the head of Ma'aminim, and that is Avraham Avinu, who is the father of Ma'aminim. So Avraham Avinu, Midas HaChesed, is the Midah of Emunah in the Aibeshter. So that's the positive side of the Emunah in Moshiach, the positive Emunah. The Gevurah is the negative, that we can't stand Golus, bringing about that state of being within ourselves that we're just not ready to continue to exist in this way, no matter how externally good it is. We can't stand Golus. Now, Tiferes, which we've just begun, brings together that even in the negative and not being able to stand Golus, it's not just because of the negative of Golus, but because of the positive emunah that this is the way a Yid should live. This is the way the Aibeshter wants the world to be adira v'tachtonim, and that will take place with the coming of Moshiach Tzidkenu. So on this week, we fuse together the two midas of Chesed and Gevurah, of the emunah in Moshiach and the desire not to spend another minute in Golus. We fuse them together into the midah of Tiferes, and that is this week in which today's Farbrengen occurs, and the day of Chov Ches Nisan, when the Sikha was said, was the end of the week of Gevurah, and we're taking it forward into Tiferes with Emunah in Moshiach and the desire to be free of Golus immediately. May the Aibeshter help that our looking forward to Moshiach will takkeh be the keilah for the coming of Moshiach Tzidkenu immediately. As we know, from the Rebbe who quoted the Ran off, the Ran at the end of Psokim. The Ran tells us that where does the mitzvah of Sfiras Omer come from? When the Yidden left Mitzrayim, they had been told, Tavdun es Oelekim al Hohor Hazeh. You will serve Hashem on this mountain and Har Sinai. Choyrev. So Tavdun with the extra nun means Ta'avdu nun, that after 50 days they would serve Hashem at Matan Torah. So when they heard this, they immediately began spontaneously to count toward those 50 days. That counting, that eagerness and anticipation was so tired, so precious by the Aibeshter, that he enshrined it forever in a mitzvah of Sfiras Omer. So that the looking forward and the eagerness to Schar HaKivui is more precious to the Aibeshter than the actual experience. For us, we can't be satisfied with hope. We takkeh want the real thing, the Bias Moshiach. But as far as the Aibeshter is concerned, our looking out for Moshiach is more precious than the way we will actually be when Moshiach comes. So this is takkeh the kele to bring Moshiach to Keinu B'Poel Mamish. May the Aibeshter help that we see it take it umiyad mamish.